Hello, friends. In this video, I would like to share 3 rules or theses that I apply in my life. But for some reason, many people do not recognize these 3 rules, reject them. So, I do not reason theoretically, all this has already been tested many times in practice. Awareness and understanding of these rules did not come to me right away, but only over the years, with the accumulation of life experience, with learning, sometimes, from my own mistakes. One thing is certain, most people do not consider the criteria of happiness from the same angle as I do. In this video, only my personal opinion will be voiced, I do not impose it on anyone. But this opinion is based solely on personal experience. I repeat, I do not reason theoretically, and any thesis can be confirmed, if desired, with specific examples from life. I looked closely at this world, human nature, and formulated the first rule of a happy life. It sounds something like this: it is worth accepting that justice does not exist. Or, to put it more precisely, justice is always relative, absolute justice cannot be achieved at a specific point in time. A hare lives in the forest, lives happily, eats grass. And then one day a wolf chases him and eats him. Tell me, is this fair? From the hare's side, it is very unfair, since he simply lost his life. But from the wolf's side, on the contrary, it is fair. The wolf ate his fill, fed his wolf cubs, and enjoys life. There is no single justice for them at the level of their interaction in wildlife. And why did someone decide that such justice exists at the level of human life? After all, man is a part of wildlife. Official science recognizes the biological origin of man, even classifies our species as Homo sapiens, belonging to the family Hominids, the order Primates, the class Mammalia, the type Chordates, and the kingdom Animals. But in nature there is no local justice, and there can't be any. There is constant competition for resources on the edge of life and death. The food supply of some species has disappeared. It is threatened with complete extinction, extermination, or destruction. What kind of justice can we even talk about? For example, somewhere in the ocean there was an earthquake, which happens once every 100 years, a powerful tsunami formed and thousands of people who were in the coastal zone died. Tourists who by chance found themselves at a resort, as well as local residents, old people, children. Tell me, is this fair or not? Is war fair? Is it fair that some children are born already sick, with rare genetic syndromes, diseases, and others are healthy? Where is that justice button that someone presses to choose who will live and who will die? Just don't object to me now, please, from a religious standpoint. A favorite phrase of religious people: God works in mysterious ways. They always like to repeat this phrase in the absence of arguments. And the fact that all people pay for the sins of some ancestors, this also defies logic in the scientific worldview, does not fit into the common sense. What payment? What ancestors? Therefore, for a happy life, you need to accept the original thesis that the world is unfair. In any case, at the local level of human interaction. Globally, in a philosophical sense, everything in nature is fair. The wolf will also die someday, his ashes will fertilize the soil, feed bacteria. New grass will grow, which the hare will happily feed on. Or rather, the descendants of that eaten hare. In this sense, everything is fair at a high, global level, and everything is unfair at a local level. Some are born healthy, some are sick, some are born in a civilized country, some in a backward one. Some are born rich, some are poor. Some have white skin, some are dark. Some are born a woman, some a man. Some are beautiful, some are not. Some are strong, some are weak. Some are untalented, some are talented. Some have a disability since childhood, while others are healthy, born into a royal family, and immediately become a prince. All these people by default have never had and will never have any fair equality of opportunity. And from this point of view, to be fair, there is no justice, the world is full of competition, struggle, and cruelty. Wars, conflicts, death from disease. Or imagine, you are flying on a passenger plane on vacation, carefree and calm, and this plane is shot down by someone with a missile. Is it fair? No, friends, there is no fairness. And the sooner you accept this for yourself, the sooner you will realize the real reality, and it will be easier for you to become happy in your life, easier to build your life on the true picture of the world, and not on illusory, false ideas. There is such a philosophical saying, truth is God. Both for religious people and for atheists, for agnostics. If justice does not exist, is it worth wasting your time, your nerves? Is it worth cursing, shouting and arguing, for example, with people close to you? Is it worth getting into conflicts? Often families break up because someone does not understand this simple first rule. Wives reproach their husbands for example, throwing their socks around the house or not closing the tube of toothpaste after brushing their teeth and leaving it lying in the bathroom on the sink. People quarrel, insult each other because they want to achieve some kind of justice known only to them. Sometimes, they quarrel over trifles. What can I say? People kill each other in wars for the sake of some seeming justice known only to them. Which, as it turns out from this video, does not exist at all. The question may arise, how to make a husband close a tube of toothpaste? After all, it is so annoying. And in general, there are many things that you want to fix, adjust to yourself, force. Answer: you should never try to change anyone to suit yourself. You should not quarrel with your loved ones because of some kind of local justice that seems to you. You need to be able to focus on what is good for you, and not try to change another, already adult, person. Your personal happiness should not depend, as far as possible, on other people at all. If the fight for justice is constantly projected onto a future husband or wife, onto future children, onto other people around us in general, then we will scream and get nervous all our lives without any reasonable sense and without any real benefit. Naturally, such a style of relationships is destructive by default. This means that such a person is never ready to compromise and will never be truly happy himself. But every person wants to be happy, right? It is difficult to accept this first rule, that justice does not exist. For example, it took me many years. But it is this rule that will help resolve any conflict and give a guideline, for example, to a young man or a young woman who wants to be happy in life, wants to have a happy and strong family, a good job, well-being and comfort in their life. People who are always fighting for justice are usually unhappy. They poison their own lives and the lives of others. This message of mine does not mean that you need to go with the flow, relax and not try to improve your life for the better. No, this is not so. It is important to turn to yourself and start only with yourself. This is the right decision in any matter. You should not hide behind the actions of other people, refer to, nod at others, at the country, at society, or at something else. It is not external reasons, not a global conspiracy of some powers that be that is to blame for the fact that, for example, some people live quite poorly, drink, smoke and do not want to work. This rule only tells us that only by understanding this simple truth about the relativity of justice and the impossibility of achieving absolute justice for everyone, we can be truly happy. By the way, I want to note that after the invention of the washing machine, the modern stove, cars, supermarkets, modern hygiene products, pads, the development of modern medicine and the service sector, all women should be happy, always and everywhere, simply by default. Just imagine how many actions some 50 or 100 years ago had to be performed, for example, to fry a chicken for yourself and your husband. First, you had to feed and raise this chicken. Then you had to catch it and cut off its head personally. Then pour boiling water over it, scald it and clean it of feathers. Then gut the chicken. Then chop some wood, make a fire or light a stove, bring water to the pot, fry or boil the chicken. And after all this, your husband came home from work and ate your chicken in 10 minutes. Tell me, friends, what kind of life was that? Today, people eat 10 times more meat than our ancestors did, but they themselves did not kill any animals. Thanks to scientific and technological progress, life has become easier, and the population of the planet has increased many times over. People are happy to multiply and reproduce. Just imagine how happy you are now that you were not born some 100 or 200 years ago, when children died from infections that are easily cured today. How good it is that today you are not bitten by insects, lice and fleas, from which people suffered just recently. And the meaning of life until recently was simply to survive. So, the first rule that you need to learn to achieve human happiness is that absolute justice does not exist. And if you spend your whole life trying to achieve something that is impossible to achieve in principle, then, naturally, you will never become a happy person. You will forever fight, inventing new and new windmills for yourself. To paraphrase a well-known wise saying, I will note, in the struggle for justice you will find your own misfortune. People usually start arguing with me, saying that I am wrong. After all, there are some absolutely fair things. For example, the fact that we are all now sitting in front of our TVs or smartphones, watching YouTube, in our clean, warm and cozy homes, that we personally have a full refrigerator right now, well, there is definitely justice in this. We worked hard and earned everything ourselves, this is 100% fair. No, friends. Absolute justice cannot be achieved. In order to heat your home now, oil or gas were pumped out, many living beings and microorganisms died. In order to make your furniture, forests were cut down, in order to cook your dinner, hundreds of large and small life forms were destroyed. And you forgot to ask them about justice. You consider only your point of view, what is beneficial to you right now. Therefore, absolute justice in the philosophical sense cannot be achieved at a single moment in time. There will always be those whose rights were infringed in one way or another and those who will consider this unfair. I can be accused of overcomplicating things, of a philosophical approach to life, of being overly passionate about science and the scientific approach to life. They will ask, so what do you suggest? To be patient? We don't want to be patient, we want justice. This channel about patience had a very useful video called, Enough of This Patience, Sufferers and Patience in Our Lives. The opposite in meaning of the words, patience, humility, are such concepts as, intemperance, irritability, hot temper. This is also, whining, and, boring. The opposite of patience is eternal dissatisfaction with life. Any work is, first of all, patience. In order to bring at least something to an end, it is worth learning to be patient. And this does not cancel out, but complements the awareness of the important first rule, it is impossible to achieve uniform justice for everyone in nature. The world does not revolve around us, which means we must patiently and calmly endure all the hardships of this unfair life. And try to become happy in harmony with this world. So, let's start discussing the second rule. The second law from our top 3. You most likely know this rule and successfully apply it in life. It sounds something like this, everything that happens is for the best. This ancient Eastern wisdom takes its roots from the philosophy of ancient India and China. Often in life, various troubles happen that are extremely upsetting. But in order to be happy, you need to find something good even in the worst. Or try to convince yourself that everything could have turned out much worse. For example, if a bird, pooped on your head, then you should smile and say, it's good that cows don't fly. If you were late for the bus that was going to your house, you should not show aggression, anger, but tell yourself, it's good that it happened this way, walking is very useful. I'd rather walk home on foot. And everything in that style. Missed the right intersection in the car and arrived at the wrong place, don't get upset. Yes, you will lose extra time, but you can imagine that this is just fate saving you from something worse. Perhaps it saved you from some terrible accident and in fact everything could have been much worse. And so you will simply be late or get off relatively easy. This is a very simple way to calm down, put your thoughts in order. If you failed an exam or an interview for a new job or your car broke down, any trouble. If you lost money, there was a crisis on the stock exchange or invested money in the wrong place, wise people, I often encountered this among Jews, suggest not to get angry and nervous, but just raise your head up, exhale calmly and say, Lord, thank you for taking money. You could have lost your health. By the way, about health. Friends, if you woke up today and nothing hurt in the morning, then you are already, in my opinion, a happy person. This is already great happiness and joy. And even if it hurt a little or periodically, too. A healthy person is a happy person. After all, there are so many diseases, suffering and terrible consequences in the world. Congenital malformations, cancer, people suffer and are tormented every day. A hospital is a place where all human misfortune and suffering is concentrated. In general, I think that doctors are even lucky that they have the opportunity to see this pain and misfortune of other people every day at work, as strange as it may sound now. It sobers you up, and all the other little things in life, for example, an unopened tube of toothpaste, all this no longer has any meaning in comparison with the value of human health and life. If you are ill in a mild or moderate form, be glad that you do not have a severe. If you do get a severe form of the disease, be glad that at least you are still alive. If you died, then in principle there is nothing to worry about and no one to. This rule also applies to most life situations. Your girlfriend left you. That's great. It means that fate is protecting you from a bad family and suggests that you look for a more suitable life partner. Or maybe your husband left you and you can't find another husband. That's not bad either. Let others suffer with these old grumpy men, and I will remain a free and independent woman. I will be interested in art, science. There are so many interesting and wonderful things in the world that you can always find something suitable for yourself. Here is some wisdom. The second rule, in my opinion, is very important for achieving happiness. Everything that happens is for the best. And finally, the third rule, which will most likely cause the greatest controversy and objections among you. Although I will try to convey its essence. The problem is that a rational person is a creature that constantly compares himself with others. This is inherent in nature, inherent in our psyche, and we must treat this with understanding. We will always discuss what kind of car our neighbor bought, discuss other people, gossip about people we know, show business stars or famous people. This is a kind of psychotherapy for us, discussing others. For example, I always understand if someone discusses me behind my back. This is right and natural. It helps relieve tension. There is nothing shameful about it. A person always compares himself with someone. Therefore, envy is not a sin, as it is written in many religious teachings. Envy is a natural emotion of any normal person. The emotion of suffering about the success of another person. Some envy more, some less. For some, the success of others is unbearable torture, and then they talk about black envy. For others, envy is an incentive for self-improvement, an example to follow. Such envy is very useful, because it makes us work harder, imitate this object of comparison, the object of envy. Then they say, I envy you with white envy. We, people, are designed in such a way that we constantly compare ourselves with those who live better than us, who are more successful than us, who look better than us, who are more beautiful than us, who are richer. And naturally, by constantly comparing our lives with them, we will never be able to become truly happy. Therefore, we need to compare ourselves with those who live worse than you, who look worse than you, who are poorer than you. When you meet, for example, a disabled person on the street in a wheelchair, think about how bad he is, how he suffers. It does not matter, by the way, that this is not at all the case. The main thing is that you think about it from the point of view of comparing your life and the life of such a person. Of course, you should not look at this disabled person for a long time or, even more so, tell him about your pity. Do not show it, but still think about what a happy person you are, that you move on your two legs and in general all your problems are much less significant than this person's. Or when you meet a deaf mute who communicates with gestures. Just imagine, this person has never heard music, he can't listen to this video on YouTube, like you are now. At best, he will watch a video with subtitles. And many people have legs, and arms, and eyes, and ears, but they still continue to whine and complain about their fate. To feel happiness, you should look at your life in comparison not with social media users, but with ordinary people around you. Or another example, you can watch travel bloggers on YouTube who talk about how well people live, for example, in Germany, Switzerland or Italy. But from the point of view of happiness, it is better for a person to watch videos from some northern Sudan, Mali. Or to contemplate dirty streets in the cities of poor countries, or about banditry in these countries. It is worth seeing kilometer-long queues for a piece of bread in some backward country once to feel that in your country not everything is so bad. You can easily feel happy, simply because you live in a more or less civilized society and in good conditions. There are no deadly snakes and spiders crawling around, as in some countries in Africa and Asia. Thus, the third rule, if you want to be happy, compare yourself not with those who live better than you, but with those who live a little worse. I will immediately stipulate that we are talking about happiness, and not about success. To be successful, on the contrary, you need to look up to the best examples, the most successful people and the richest countries. This third rule I am talking about is necessary for finding a sense of joy and happiness. It should not cancel the desire for a better life. It has long been noted that people living in such backward and poor countries, living objectively economically worse than us, often do not suffer much from this. And they smile wider and more joyfully even than cold-blooded and rich Europeans. Their sense of happiness is no less than that of a rich banker focused on making money. Rich people with huge capital sometimes suffer much more than completely ordinary people. Because their problems put psychological pressure on them, there is a burden of responsibility and fear of losing their capital. This is stress, which can certainly affect health. Money, especially big money, is not only a blessing, but also a great responsibility, a test for a person. Of course, there are other rules for a happy life. But they are more obvious than those I have listed. All other rules that could be invented are derivatives of these three basic theses around which the behavior of a happy person is built. Having accepted these three rules listed for yourself, you may look at all the hardships and adversities in your life from a different angle. Let illnesses pass you by. Peace and goodness to your homes. Subscribe to this channel so as not to miss useful videos on important topics in life. I thank you for your attention. Goodbye, until we meet again.